Hello, everyone. Today, I'm going to share my personal story of battling autism and how that all looked and what an absolute hot mess I was for quite a while. I'm going to get really vulnerable here, so if you're interested, stick around. And I am Sue Simmons. I am the founder of Equinox Family Consulting, and I am at the cottage. As you can see, the background is different here, and I don't have my lighting or my microphone, so I hope you can hear me okay. So, hey, before I get started, if you have not yet downloaded my eGuide to understanding autism and difficult behavior, you can just write in the comments below guide. And our Facebook group is growing like crazy, which is so exciting. If you want to join our Lemons to Lemonade ASD Moms Group, please type in lemons down below. And all right, here we go. So welcome to episode number 12 of To the Spectrum and Beyond, my story. So, like most of you, I'm sure, leading up to my son's birth, there was so much anticipation. I read every book. I was going to be the best mom in the world, ha ha. And I decorated his nursery. I sewed curtains. I did it all. And he showed up right on time, and it was a lovely experience, although I have to say my husband was not a baby guy. And I figured out what was going on with that a little later on. And I've made peace with it, just so you know. Everything was pretty cool until my son turned 3. And then it was like everything changed on a dime. And I was so confused. He did not want to play with me. He didn't want anything to do with me. All he wanted to do was line up his Hot Wheels. And he had a real thing with Hot Wheels. So we had tons of them. So all he wanted to do was line things up. Blocks. No, we can't play with them. We line them up. And, I didn't know what was going on. And not only that, but every time I tried to engage with him, he would just turn away. When it was bath time, bedtime, mealtime, I would have an epic meltdown on my hands. And I started to get so anxious. I felt like I was walking on eggshells. I didn't know what to do. My husband didn't spend nearly as much time with my son as I did, so he didn't really get it. And he was a little more off to the side, and it was horrible. No one got it. That was before so many kids were diagnosed with autism, and so I didn't have a clue what was going on. I felt so alone. I remember that feeling so clearly. It was just like I was alone in the world, and I did not know what was going to happen. We had doctor's appointments and so on, but no one, he looked like a perfectly normal kid. I cried all the time. I cried like day in, day out. I lost it with my husband. I was just a basket case. I was a total basket case. I was constantly walking around the house just with tears running down my face. And I felt like a complete failure, I left my job to be with him, thinking that was what I should do. And I'm sure that, most of you or many of you have done that or contemplated that. My husband worked on the odd Saturday, so I had to get a friend to come and hang out with me because I couldn't be alone with my son. Like, try that one on. I'm sure you can relate to some extent, but talk about feeling like the lowest of the low. You know, I didn't want to go out anywhere. I couldn't take him out anywhere. So I did decide in the end that I had to get out. So I joined a mom's group, disaster. I joined a music group for kids, disaster. Swimming, disaster, meltdowns. I didn't know what to do. People were looking at me like I was a crazy person. It was just horrible. I thought I was losing my mind. I really, really did. So I went and got some, hello, Amy. Thank you so much for joining us. Lovely of you to come. So we eventually got the diagnosis 6 months after that through the Center for Addiction and Mental Health. And they did all kinds of interviews with me and my husband. And at this time, it started to dawn on me that, okay, I get it. My husband is an ASD. And that answered so many questions. And I have made peace with it. He wouldn't have a problem with me saying this as I am. But that didn't help me because now I knew why my husband wasn't involved, and nothing was different with my son. I was still a basket case, and at least I knew what was going on. But, and I'll never forget, I have to tell you a story about that day that we got the diagnosis. We had a van at that time, right? Everyone who has a kid gets a van. And so we were driving through the parking lot at the CAMH, and our car got wedged up against the ceiling of the parking garage. Oh my God, we got stuck. And we had to, we were driving in reverse. Of course I was crying. And like, my son started flipping out, and what a freaking nightmare. What a nightmare. So we got out, and I called my mom and I said, Mom, you know, Chase has autism. And she said, well, it's not going to kill him. Exact words. Well, thank you so much for your love and empathy. And, you know, to be honest, it almost did kill him later. It would be years later. Oh, so guess what? Then I get pregnant. Yay, right? And my pregnancy was a complete disaster. Something went weird with my blood. I had all kinds of doctor's appointments. I was so tired. I couldn't function. At 35 weeks, I had to have a bone marrow aspiration. And oh boy, that was loads of fun. There were about 4 nurses holding my hands because they were afraid I was going to go into labor. And a bone marrow aspiration is not fun. Anyways, she arrived, and she was healthy, and things did resolve with my health for some unknown reason. Oh, so now I've got a new baby. I've got a son on the spectrum and a husband on the spectrum and a mom with untreated bipolar disorder who is doing all kinds of really wacky things and creating all kinds of drama in our family and with me. And I was still feeling oh so alone. And, you know, Jeff wasn't supporting me. He didn't get what was going on. He didn't have the patience to deal with my son. Talk about a fucking nightmare. I remember one time being in the grocery store. My son had a scrape on his cheek because he fell off his scooter. And so I was at the grocery store. Someone was looking after my daughter. Chase was sitting in the front of the cart, and I'm madly whipping around the grocery store just as fast as I can. And so my cart is pretty full, and I've got sunglasses on my head, and Chase wants something. I won't give it to him. And of course, I didn't know then what I know now. I just said no. And sure enough, he has a meltdown. Well, he takes my sunglasses, which were nice sunglasses, just goes like that, snaps them in two, throws them on the floor. I start freaking out. And there's a woman standing about 5 feet away from me, just glaring at me like, you are a bad mom. Like, what did you do to your child? Well, I looked at her and I said two very choice words, and you might imagine what they were. And I just grabbed Chase out of the cart and walked out and left my grocery cart full. And that was just a splendid day. Yes. And of course, I didn't have groceries at the end of it. So yeah, that was a fun one. That was really good. And then there was the day when I decided to get up really early. I made spaghetti sauce so I could be all prepared. And I had the crock pot bubbling away, and my son was having a meltdown. He got up on the kitchen counter, just glaring at me, and slowly, ever so slowly, pushed the crock pot off the kitchen counter onto the floor. What a freaking mess it was. And you can imagine how I responded to that. Not fun, not a good experience. Oh, thinking back, what a hard time that was. So, you know, moms, I totally get it. I have been in, that was the lowest part of my life, I swear. So a friend of mine asked to come and visit me, and she's a real straight shooter. And within being in our house, she was staying overnight for about half an hour, and seeing what was going on, she sat me down, poured me a glass of wine, and she said, "You're a freaking mess." And I said, "No kidding. Thanks for pointing that out." And she said, "You know, like, step back and look at this picture." She said, "You know, would you put your son on a plane with a pilot in your condition?" And I said, "Well, duh, of course I wouldn't." And she said, "Well, then how do you think you can parent your son in this condition? You know, you're a mess. You know, you can't even cope, let alone, you know, connect with him or parent him." And she got through to me. And she was right. I knew she was right, but I was too freaking proud to reach out for help. And so I started a support group, and it was a really great group. We had about 30 moms at, you know, most meetings. And it was really good to hear that there were so many women who were experiencing the same difficulty as me. Everyone had their own versions, but we had the same feelings, of just utter exhaustion, feeling like a failure. Oh, thank you for the love. And we could lean on one another's shoulders and offer support, but really no solutions. And then one day, one of the moms brought in a brochure on a program called Relationship Development Intervention. It was really thick, and the claims for this program were really lofty, and I thought, okay, I got to check this out. So I did, and it turned out the first Canadian to be certified lived about 20 minutes away from me, which was nothing short of a miracle. So I called her and I spoke with her, and I said to my husband, "I don't care if we have to, you know, we're doing this, because, you know, I'm going to be dead, and, you know, my son's going to run away from home or something," right? It just wasn't working. I needed help. Oh, so RDI, or Relationship Development Intervention, I'm not going to talk about this for long, but it's an intensive parent-based program where you work with a consultant, and it's not meant to be a short-term thing. It's meant to be a longer-term thing. And so there's sort of two parts. The first part is reestablishing a more normal parent-child hierarchy, because, as you know, things just go completely out of whack, and your child is running the house, you know, or, you know, ruling the roost, and you're running behind, you know, trying to put out fires. So we got that part under control, which was amazing. I began to feel competent as a mom. It was a miracle. The second part of the program is the parents are coached to reestablish the child's cognitive, social, and emotional development. So it is leading edge. Sorry, it's based on the fact that the brain can change. It's based on the most recent research in autism, in neurodevelopment and child development. And so anyways, we got things back under control. It was, you know, I remember the day my son came into the kitchen and said, "Mom, can I help you do something in the kitchen?" And I remember just looking at him and just, you know, happy tears rolling down my cheeks. It was so amazing. And a couple of days after that, he fell off his top bunk, and we were sitting in the hospital for 4 hours. Thank goodness he didn't break anything, but they stuck us in a casting and splinting room, and I had learned how to communicate differently with him. So I started to sort of making curious comments like, I wonder what they do with that stuff. I wonder how they use that. It looks like we were opening boxes and stuff, right? And believe it or not, we had like a really amazing conversation. It was like a back and forth, honest to goodness conversation. It was so cool. And, you know, it changed everything. I learned how to, you know, forward his development through how I was showing up. And I learned how to manage his behavior, but it was so much bigger than that. So that was a huge, you know, awakening for me. And once we got things back on track, I decided that I wanted to become certified. I wanted to help people do what had been done for me. And I was talking to other moms, and I was sickened by how moms were told to, you know, step aside, let the professionals do their job here. You know, you get in the back seat of the bus, you know, we'll take it from here. And I didn't like that. And I knew how useless and frustrated and marginalized these moms felt. And I wanted to have an impact on that. I wanted to change things and show people that autism is not a life sentence. And I wanted to help people see that their children had the potential that others did not see, that there was more to autism than just behavior. You know, children could have quality of life, and so could their families. So I studied for 2 years under the psychologist who developed the program. It was a lot of work, and but I loved it. It was fascinating. I learned so much, and I became certified in 2006. And so I have been doing that ever since. And yeah, I've been working one-on-one with families, and it is an incredible program. It's intensive, and it's not inexpensive, and it's not funded yet. So, you know, the first message I have for you is there is hope. But if you feel lost and confused and frustrated and inferior and less than and marginalized, get help. You know, you need to look after yourself. You can't do this without feeling like you're healthy and, you know, you've got support. Don't try and do it alone. Don't try and be a hero. You're not helping yourself or your child. You know, my son is now 21. He's working. He's got friends. You know, no, life isn't perfect. And yes, you know, we had some difficult times with mood disorders. Our kids are 50% more likely to experience a mood disorder. And so, you know, build a relationship with your child. You know, don't just think about now, think about the future. If you can manage and cope and thrive and connect with your child, you know, when my son was going through his depression and suicide attempts, and it was a disaster. I can't imagine what would have happened if I hadn't had the relationship that I had with him. That was a godsend, for real. It was a godsend. So do what you can now, you know, get help. So last year when I was, my daughter was struggling with an eating disorder. So yeah, things have been tough. I was in Ottawa for 6 months, And I started doing research. I knew that I wanted to help more people. When sort of along the way, I also became a certified professional coach and a certified EFT or tapping practitioner so that I could have more tools to support moms in my work and their children. So I did some research. I surveyed, I talked with 40 moms, and I surveyed over 150 families because I wanted to find out what their biggest problem was. And I wanted to create a program that was not the RDI program, but a shorter, more affordable program that would give them the skills that they needed just to feel competent as parents. And sure enough, it was behavior. Behavior, anxiety, and fear of the future were the three things. So I put together the Better Behavior Boot Camp while I was away with my daughter while she was getting treatment. It is really cool for moms to have one-on-one support with me, to be in a group where they're learning together. It's a real eye-opener for the moms. They are like, holy cow, I never knew that. They learn stuff that they didn't even know was out there about autism, because all moms are told really is your child's got behavior problems, let's give him or her behavior therapy. And that's more or less what most moms are told. And, then they're told to step aside. And I don't like that. Your child is going to be in your life forever, for as long as you're around. And you are ultimately responsible for his or her future. It's going to be a time when therapy is going to end. And you're going to need to know how to connect with your child, how to manage difficult behavior, how to feel competent. So I have 3 questions that I want to ask you. So, would you feel less afraid of the future if you felt competent as a parent? So if you felt like you knew what you were doing, would you fear the future less? Would you feel more competent as a mom if you knew how to manage difficult behavior? So give that one some thought. Wouldn't life be nicer if you felt you knew how to connect with your child? We are putting so many demands on our kids. It's no wonder we have so much behavioral difficulty, because they're little people. They're just like us in so many respects. We're doing this to them. We're doing that to them. We're taking them here and there, and we wind up being chauffeurs, not knowing how to manage. And, it's setting us up for failure. We need to change things, and we can. And you can learn to feel competent. And I want to show you how. I am out to change things. I'm on a mission to help moms see autism differently and how they can have an impact on their child's autism. Okay, I'm not saying therapy is bad. I'm not saying they don't need this or that, but they need to feel competent, and they can. And I want you to see it firsthand for yourself. And I want to talk to you. I want to support you. I want you to feel like a human being again, and you can. So thank you for listening. Trust me, I have been where you are. I get it. And it doesn't have to be that way. So please schedule a call with me. Let's talk. Let's get you feeling better again. Let's get you back on track and feeling good. So I want to thank you so much for being here today. If you're watching this after the fact, you can download the guide by keying in guide. You can book a call with me. You can get the link to join our Facebook group. We're changing things. It's coming. And thank you so much for being here today. I love being here with you guys. And I will see you next week. And Thank you so much. Please take care of yourselves. You know, if you love your kids, take care of their moms. Bye for now. Take care.